The iPhone camera has gotten so good that the photos taken on my iPhone are indistinguishable from the photos taken on a mirrorless camera. But what's my iPhone photography workflow? What's my settings? How do I capture it? How do I process it to get the best out of my iPhone? That's exactly what I'm going to show you in today's video. So let's get started. I've made a whole video on the best iPhone camera settings and iPhone camera tips, but I do understand that photography is a very subjective thing. Some prefer convenience, quicker and storage-friendly photos, while some prefer pro-level, absolute massive files. Some prefer muted look, while some prefer vivid, high contrast, high sharpness look. So take this workflow with a grain of salt, since these are my preferred look and settings. This video is more for guidance so that you will be able to tweak the workflow yourself to fit your needs better. The very first thing starts in settings. Under camera settings, under format, I enable ProRAW and resolution control. Under ProRAW format, I select JPEG XL Lossy. Before I exit, I also go to preserve settings under camera settings and turn on ProRAW and resolution control. Now, settings part is done. For capturing, I use the default iOS camera app. I've also tried apps like HEIF, NoFusion and Moment Pro for this pure RAW photos. But I like the ease of use of the stock app, and the ProRAW RAW is good enough for me. Now, when I open the camera app for the first time, the default is going to be HEIF and 24 megapixel. I changed this to RAW and 48 megapixel. Since I set enabled ProRAW in preserve settings, these settings are going to be preserved and I don't have to tweak it each time I open the camera app. Once and done. That's it. I just frame my shot and take a photo. The max I tweak is usually the exposure, where I tap on the frame where I want to focus and then slide up or down to get my desired exposure. Now, when I open the Photos app and see the photo that I just took, you can see that it's tagged as a RAW photo. If I expand even more, you can see that it's 48 megapixel RAW photo and the file size is 10 times the original size. That's because this photo has so much more information captured than what a regular photo will capture. Let me show you something. I will take two photos side by side, one a plain HEIF photo and another a 48 megapixel ProRAW photo. Looking at them side by side, they look exactly the same except the RAW photo taking 10 times the file size, right? Then why am I choosing the ProRAW? The main reason being Apple processing, especially the fake sharpness, excessive HDR and contrast that Apple processing adds to a photo. Some people like it, but in my opinion, this is what gives the generic iPhone photo look that millions of people take. I prefer the more natural, not over-sharpened, not oversaturated, and a DSLR-like photos. This whole process is just to achieve that for my photos. But wait, the HEIF and the ProRAW photos looked exactly the same viewing them side by side, right? Then what's the difference? That's because when a ProRAW photo is taken and displayed on your Photos app, Apple applies a default processing to show them in the Photos app. And since this default processing is the same over-sharpened, high contrast look that it applies to its HEIF photos as well, it looks exactly the same. The good part is, with ProRAW photos, the original data is all still there and I can still process it in the way I want. With a HEIF photo, the processing is all baked in and cannot be tweaked much. So how do I do this? Well, there are multiple photo processing and editing apps available, but the one I use is Lightroom Mobile. This is a free app, by the way. Some features require a paid promotion, but pretty much everything I do now can be done using the free version. So I just normally capture ProRAW photos. I can view them like a regular photo. I can share them in WhatsApp or messages like a JPEG photo. So all good. Later, when I get some time, I just share the photo and pick Lightroom Mobile. This opens the photo directly into Lightroom Mobile. If you tap on the eye icon, you can see that the RAW version of this photo has been opened from the DNG extension, along with more details. But this still has the default Apple processing applied. You can see the photo still looks like a regular iPhone photo. To first remove all the default processing, I will slide on the bottom toolbar and select Profiles. Here you can see that the Apple ProRAW profile has been applied to the RAW photo, giving that default iPhone look. Now you can try any other profile that is available here which you find most pleasing, but the one I would like to start with is Adobe Neutral. As the name suggests, it gives a neutral starting point for me to work with. Now all that over sharpening, extra saturation, high contrast from Apple processing are all gone. Trust me, it may look like a less sharp image, but all the real details are still in there. Only the artificially sharpened processing has gone away. From here, it's a lot more subjective. I edit the image as per my preference, and honestly, it depends a lot on the image, the mood of the scene, and things like that. My usual edits are: first, I tweak the contrast a bit. I bring back some of the lost contrast. Then I bring back some shadow details. I also add a little more black to get even more contrast in the dark areas. Then I tweak the exposure. I do this after shadows and contrast because they themselves shift the exposure, and tweaking exposure first doesn't work very well for me. Then in the next section, tweak the white balance, tint, and saturation. This section depends a lot on the scene. Sometimes the white balance seems perfect, but sometimes the white balance in Adobe Neutral profile seems horrible. But it's a very easy tweak to correct it. If there's a lot of skin tones, then I go into color grading, and in the orange color, I tweak the saturation to fix my skin tone as well. One final tweak. Under the effect section, I slightly give it a vignette to bring focus on the center of the photo, especially if it's a portrait photo. That's it. Now I export this photo by tapping the share icon and saving it to my device. Now let's look at all the three photos: the default HEIF, the ProRAW photo, and the custom edited photo. The file size has gone down, the image looks much nicer, again subjectively as per my liking, and zooming in, it still has all the details without artificial sharpness. Now, this edited file size is still much larger than a default 24 megapixel HEIF. You can tweak the export setting in Lightroom to bring the file size even down, but I'm fine with this trade-off. This is some extra effort and time to first strip the default processing, apply my own processing, and then export it. But there are a few steps that I follow to make my workflow even quicker. In Lightroom, under App Settings, in the Import section, you can see RAW default settings. This setting tells Lightroom which profile to apply to a RAW photo by default. For ProRAW photos, the Adobe default will be Apple ProRAW. Since every time I'm gonna start with Adobe Neutral profile, I'm gonna choose Preset and select RAW Basic. You see, when I first applied just Adobe Neutral profile to a RAW photo, I saved that current setting as a preset called RAW Basic. I even added some contrast and shadows to that RAW Basic preset, which had the above neutral as profile. So the next time I open a RAW photo using Lightroom on my iPhone, it automatically applies the RAW Basic preset, which is in Adobe Neutral profile with some contrast and shadow enhancement by default. All I have to do is do some very basic tweaking and export. Honestly, it just takes like 10 seconds in total for a photo, but the results are so worth it. One last comment before closing. ProRAW is still a half processed photo. ProRAW is an Apple format where it does half the processing and saves all the remaining data. A pure RAW or zero processed RAW, which iOS camera app doesn't let you take, but other apps like HEIF or even Lightroom Mobile can take, has zero processing, meaning there is no stacking, no noise reduction, no HDR, nothing. Plain old single photo. The reason why I still prefer Apple ProRAW are: One, I still like the basic computational photography that Apple does. It takes a series of photos and stacks them for better dynamic range, better noise reduction, deep fusion, etc. Second, except for over-sharpening and saturation tweaks, these are some things that I would still want in my photos, like noise reduction in low light photos and shadow lifting. And pure RAW photos are max 12 megapixels. Apple ProRAW photos are 48 megapixels, and it's the best of both worlds for me. Alright, the goal of this video was plainly to share how I take and process my photos to my liking, and hopefully that gives you some idea or inspires you to process your photos the way you like it and make your pics stand out. If you have some preferred way of capturing and processing your iPhone photos, please let me know in the comments below. I will see you all in the next one, and oh, don't forget to subscribe the channel. This is Anjana. Bye-bye.